Good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome in particular to our guest this afternoon. He'll be speaking, Greg Campbell. He'll be introduced more formally by Sue Ellsworth a little later on. Before I ask Tony to lead us in grace, could I make sure that you all have your cell phones turned off or turned down, please? And now, Tony, if you'd like to lead us in grace.
President Kerry, guests and fellows, as we pause, can we reflect for a few moments on the many blessings we have, on the love we give and receive, on the fellowship and friendships we enjoy, on our hopes and aspirations, and on the provision of our daily food. We give thanks to God. Amen.
Thank you very much, Tony. Now, we have some guests here today, and I wondered, first of all, William, would you like to introduce your two guests, please?
I'm delighted to introduce two young German visitors to Wellington, Linda Tuke and Alexis Woolery. Alexis' father is a member of the Rotary Club of Meppen, our sister club in Germany, and they made the link through Peter Paul, who spoke to us a while ago.
Thank you. Welcome. And maybe, William, while you're on your feet, you might like to introduce that returning Rotarian on your right.
He can't stand up because he's broken his leg and falling off a motorbike. And ACC have given a little scooter to get around town which has got no monitor on, so be careful when you're walking down that.
So welcome, Chris. And Mark Woodard, you have a guest. Mark.
Anna Wignall works with me at Parmac and has been really involved and we're very grateful for her help on the Rotary Forum.
Now, do we have any Rotarians who've been travelling? First of all, who are about to go offshore. So, Chris, you need to stand up for this bit. Or just put money straight in the plate. And Richard, okay, thank you. And well, good, great, thanks. It's more money. And those returning. So, has anyone been away? Heather, great, thank you. Birthdays, Alistair Finney. Is Alistair here today? No. And Karen Dukas. Karen? No? They're both celebrating their birthdays. So I'd like to invite Brian up, who's going to lead us in the sergeant's session.
Thank you, President Kerry. Having had the past district governor here last week doing this job, I thought I should also endeavour to look resplendent. Trust I do. How do I get that started, you? Or could you start it? There. Yeah. Just press that.
Yep.
Otherwise, you talk to you very nicely.
I think.
You want me to do it?
Huh?
You want me to do it?
Yes, please.
Okay. You just tell me.
No, that wasn't the one. Next one.
Did you want to talk about age?
Yeah, I will, all right. I'll talk about it. Well, you always fumble for a theme. I thought age might be the one to deal with. I was at an 80th birthday party yesterday. It wasn't mine. And it set me thinking about the age range of this club. And, there are far too many references to how young people bring the average age down. And some of us put the average age up. Even poor Colin McLeod had to put a positive spin on his retirement from the club I mentioned in that fact. The average age, by the way, is 63 years. I've always thought averages sort of conceal more than they reveal. You know how it's often quoted as the average wage. But the median figure is, I suspect, more interesting. Except Yuri tells me that the median age of the club is 66. Not all that different from the average. Anyway, what I thought I'd do is deal with the subject of age, recognising there are two groups of people in the club, the younger and the older. and I'm amongst the latter. AA is advanced age, that's what that means. Now, there we are. Right, now if I press the button, you think it might change?
Yep.
Now the reason I'm wearing it is, it's an AA badge, of course. I don't have a car on which I can install this, and I haven't had one for decades. You know, they're intended to go on the, what was called the grille, or on a bracket on the bumper. Now the last car I had on which the badge was installed was in fact this. Now you're fond of quizzes. What is that as a car?
29 Dodge, 40 Model T.
All right, we'll move on. It's a Model A Ford, a workhorse. Well, before we leave the subject of badges, does anyone in the club still have a car on which they have a badge installed? Probably a vintage car. John Cook's not here, is he? He used to have it. Ah, yes, what is it? MGB, yeah, good, okay. I felt the obligation to have the odd quiz question. Seems important. But what I'll do as I go on is I'll try to draw from my experience some things that I think distinguish the older from the younger.
So is that you with it?
It's not part of the script. Now that car is, that was taken in 1968, and it's parked just a few metres from the Mangatapopo hut, which is the first hut you encounter on the Tongariro crossing. So, another quiz. How many people have done the Tongariro crossing? Yeah, that's what I expected. Now, as I said, this is just parked outside the hut. When I first made contact with the park in the early 1950s, there was no road. You walked from State Highway 47, or more usually from the chateau across to the hut. Then the management of the park decided they'd put a stub road in. Right. Then they decided they'd put the road to the hut. And then they realised that was inviting the usual vandalism. And so they took the road away again. And it now finishes where the buses drop you off. So that's an historic photograph. Now we're dressed like that because that car was on a delivery voyage from my parents' home in Auckland to Wellington. And this is one of those comparisons between then and now I thought I'd draw. We'd come to Wellington in 1966, and by 68 we committed ourselves to the purchase of a house at Pukerua Bay for $12,000. Family, one income, two very young children, plenty of cash but no capital. We had a near new Ford Cortina which we sold in order to raise most of the deposit on that house, supplemented by 2 mortgages. Now, I sold the car, the Cortina, for more than I paid for it, because conditions for vehicle supply in those days were desperate. Our car was bought with a no remittance licence, and the agents jumped at the opportunity to buy it. So I'm drawing a comparison between the days when, as you drove the car out of the showroom, it appreciated in value. Now, I don't think it's quite the same today, is it? No, exactly. So my parents offered me their second best car to fill the gap, as it did for a couple of years, and we drove that around Wellington. Beautiful car. No. Another quiz, we'll come to that. Now, I thought another way of drawing a distinction between the older and younger how many people here would have learnt to drive and driven at a time when very few vehicles had even a trafficator? And those of you who don't know what a trafficator is, you're out anyway. Now, just a quick show of hands. Yeah, and a hand is the operative thing. Because I was going to quiz them, it's not for the rest of you, quiz them on the hand signals, official and non-official. All right, so just shout when you. This is the steering wheel, and this is the windowsill of an open window, of course, having wound it down. Right. Would one person enunciate their answer clearly, please?
I intend to turn right.
Ah, good. I had hoped someone would fall into a trap and say, I'm turning right. Right.
I intend to slow down or stop.
Come on. Straight ahead. Over the roof. Left.
I'm trying my brilliant out.
Right. I'm slowing down. What about this? Now, there are a few others that are more an expression of attitude than of, you know. I've got a minute. Oh, good. Elbow on the sill. I'm nonchalant. I'm cruising, and I've got one hand on this gigantic steering wheel. You know, the steering wheels are about that wide. And I've probably got one of those plastic knobs with which you can turn it. Right? Arm dangling outside.
Had a stroke.
It usually meant I'm cool, I don't care. And this V8 is a beautiful car. What about this one? Well, it was usually the passenger. I'm talking about a time in Auckland, in North Auckland.
You're talking about a male.
No. This is before cars had decent ventilation systems. It was to bring air into the vehicle. A variation on that, usually with young women, was a foot sticking out the window to keep it cool. Right. Could we have the first of those, the next one? Right. Now, who can answer that one? What's that signal then?
Who's lost the bra?
I didn't really think anyone here would be old enough to have actually used that signal, but I thought there might have been some carriage drivers.
I'm accelerating.
Flick the next one. There you are. How's the minute going? I'll stop there. Well, I don't do this very often, and as Chris Parkin pointed out once, he needs more practice. The last time I did it, James Austin was president. Can you remember that? And he was sitting there, and he held up this placard. It had a big 2 on it. Whoops. And I said, this is in the days of Strictly Ballroom or whatever it was, you know, Dancing with the Stars. And I said, is that a score? He said, no, it's 2 minutes. What you got left? Right. Well, I've got enough material for another session sometime, so I'll see you in about 5 years' time.
I think he prepared that 10 years ago and we got to page 2 today. So what I'd like to do now is invite Prashanta up, who's going to do his introduction today. 5 minutes. Is that right? You expecting this?
Yes,
Yes, good.
Sorry, Tom, it was something.
It's okay.
Anthony, I'm here.
So, I'll give you a walk too.
No, no, I'm all right. Thank you very much, Madam President and other members. It's quite daunting, actually. I've been preparing for this for about 4 months. I have written about 3 presentations, but the dog ate them, neighbor's dog. But that act is very hard to follow. But I thought I'll pick up on it because I actually knew the answers to all of them with slight variations, because this trafficator did actually survive in full blow in some other parts of the world where I grew up. So I'll start off with what I call a few Indus style trafficators. Yeah. So this was good. I'm about to turn right. Yeah. So that was the same. That was good too. What was that? Remember, that's the edge of the window, and you go. That's how long you do it. Just that. Huh? That was what you were trying to do like that. But you see, we don't have a lot of time in India when we grow up, so you just go. By the way, you do that when the car's already turned about 60 degrees, right? That you don't have to do in India. They're going to go past you anyway. Right? So I'm a very good driver. I'm still here. That's evidence that I'm a very good driver. I have not injured anybody in my life except myself. I have been catapulted about 6 feet from a scooter a couple of times, but I had the helmet, so I didn't die. So I thought I'll start out with the trafficator. Thank you very much for enduring me. I've got a big long list speech here, but let's see how far I get through. So first of all, a bit about my whakapapa. I'm Bengali, which means I hail from eastern part of India, from what used to be the undivided Bengal. My mother comes from what is today Bangladesh, a town called Mymensingh, and she grew up in Dhaka. This was all unified Bengal, if you recall, before 1947. And my father comes from what used to be called West Bengal, but they've grown up and they call it Bengal because it's a state of India. So, but it used to be called East Bengal and West Bengal. Very different people because there's a particular thing we eat in our diet. We are rice eaters, fish eaters. We eat a lot of dal. East Bengalis eat dal last. West Bengalis eat dal first. So half the days we used to get served dal first, and half the days we used to get served dal last. So diversity is in my blood. I have 3 siblings. Mother raised 4 boys, and she used to get very angry, and she still does it. She's 91 and says, "I wish you have boys." And as it turns out, I'm the only son who's ended up having boys, and I feel it in my bones and my muscles, what it means to raise boys. She raised 4 of us. I'm the youngest. My eldest brother is no more. He unfortunately passed away of cancer when he was 58 years old. It was very sad, very hard for my mother. She still hasn't forgotten that. My brothers are all older, 11, 13, and 15 years old, so I was probably, I think of it as a late act of passion. I'd like to think it that way rather than kind of an accident. But whatever it was, I'm glad they did it. You know, the greatest gift they could have given me. My parents met each other in a place called Meerut. Some of you, if you're familiar with Indian Army, Meerut is close to Delhi, big army cantonment, the headquarters of the Women's Auxiliary Armed Corps. My mother joined the Women's Auxiliary Armed Corps at the age of 16. I don't know why she did that. She traveled from Mymensingh. She tells me she looked quite big, so they believed that she was overage. She was not. She was underage. She spent about 4 years there amongst 400 British women and complained about serving food cooked with tallow, beef tallow, that she would refuse to eat. So they did actually go and get vegetable oil and cook food for these 3 girls. So she's a bit of a daunting personality. She's raised us quite hard, quite straight. She told me one day that if you ever steal something, steal so much that you can walk down the streets and nobody will dare prosecute you because everybody will be in your debt. I thought that was pretty good. Good advice. I haven't risen to that, obviously. She's disappointed. They were both civil servants. She went on to serve customs as a clerk. My father went on to be the civilian head of the Indian Army. My father has passed away several years now. He was 90. I went to school in India Lovely school in a place called Raisina Hill. It's quite historical significance. It was called the Raisina School, established in 1902. Then I went on to Delhi University and studied geology, which my parents till date haven't figured out why I did, because I did nothing of geology, but I have an excellent stone collection. The rest of the stuff about me you have to know by knowing my personality, and I look at these characterizations, and they are developed after deep research from MIT and Harvard and of the world. And so, as you would appreciate, that there are some of us who are called baby boomers. I read the baby boomer characteristics every day because I'm supposed to be half baby boomer, born 61. But I also read the characteristics of Gen X because I'm half Gen X, 1961. I'm on the cusp. My only problem is that it flips about every hour for me. That can be challenging, certainly for people who work with me. But when I get onto kind of my hobbies and what attracts me in terms of influencing for good, you'll appreciate. You'll see a bit of baby boomer and you'll see a bit of Gen X. I volunteered to be a trustee of Skylight. It intrigued me, the cause. Grief is in everybody's family. That wasn't the driver. It just intrigued me. It intrigued me to put my professional competency into an organization, and I've really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the experience. I'm on the audit and risk committee. My aspiration is to address, I have a lot of friends, I'm 50 years old. I have a lot of friends who are very highly qualified but paranoid about technology. And I want to fix that because I think we need to get on top of technology. So currently I'm brewing a senior net center in Karori, which has more than 14,000 50-year-olds, but it doesn't have a senior net center. And I'm intrigued why it doesn't. I don't expect people to, 50-plus-year-olds or 60-plus-year-olds get on a bus at 6 p.m., come to town, to have a 2-hour session on iPad. So I'm challenged by that thought. So any of you interested, if you're living in Karori, want to join me, I think it can be done quite easily. Go on to my hobbies. This is where the Gen X and baby boomer split will be very obvious. Yep. I read trash thrillers and drama, including these days I'm into TV series I don't even have to read. Scandal, Suits, Billions, Good Wife is the kind of stuff I really enjoy. I can watch them 8 to 10 hours at a go. No problems. My wife is surprised, but no problems. It's my refuge. I like